If you're a beginner guitarist, you've probably heard of triads. And the first thought you had was, oh my God, triads are for advanced players. They're not. They're really actually a great tool for beginners, and they set you up on your whole musical progression. So I'm going to share some triads, one or two tricks, and how you might use them. So first we need to understand what a triad is. Now, triad is essentially the most basic chord on the planet. If I play a G, that is a triad, but I'm actually playing extra notes. I'm like doing more work than I need to do. So a triad is the 1, the 3, and the 5 of a chord, and it's the basic chord. So a major chord is a 1, major third, and a 5th. And so that's all you need to play. So 3 notes, 3 fingers. That's the beauty about triad. So if you have a hard time playing a G, or you don't want to, start barring and using every single string, that's where triads can be like, ease you into kind of playing more interesting. There's a D sharp. Have you ever played that? Probably not, because it's kind of hard to finger if you're not doing a triad. So triads are really great for kind of sneaking you into harder chords. And when you're playing with other people, there's a lot of stuff going on. So if you're playing a full chord, that's just a lot to be happening. Whereas if you're just playing a triad, there's the G triad right there. You could be delicately going above what's already happening. So I've talked a lot, but here's a triad here. I'm going to play an A triad. And so triads, again, are 3 notes. For a major triad, it's a 1, the 3, and the 5. So just remember 1, 3, 5. I'm going to play an A chord. And if you look at my fingers, I'm just going to concentrate on the notes that are being held down, so the notes that are being fretted. Essentially, that is one of the 3 major triads on these 3 strings, which would be the D, G, and the B string. So there's my probably simplest triad. I could hold it down with however you like to hold down your A's. And so in that triad, guess what there are? There's the 1, there's the 3, and there's the 5. One of the first things you probably want to start thinking about with the triad is, where's the root? And so in an A, well, when I play an A chord, I know my open A string is the root. I know that this is another A because it's the octave of there. So it's the middle of the 3 notes of this triad is the root. So that's the first thing I'd want to know. So I think about it as the A. So there's my A sharp. And so there's my A sharp triad. There's my B. So there's my B triad. There's my C. And so there's my C triad. So I think about it in relation to what chord is the triad coming from. So I think about it coming from this A. And so I can think about this root is probably easiest for me because those are the first strings you learn is the E and the A string. So it's just easier for me to think of what the root of the triad is for this particular chord. So A sharp, B, C, and so on, all the way up here. And so why is that interesting? I could play a very straightforward 1-4-5 progression. I think about A, B, C, D, and E. So the D and the E are the 4 and the 5. So normally I might play it A. So that's one way it could sound. But I could slide it up and play a D and play an E. So it sounds very different. Same exact chords. I'm just playing the triads of those chords, but I'm playing it in different positions. And you could start to have little effects. So you could slide up from the D to the E. I could hammer on from the D to the E. And back down to the A. So you can start doing slightly different things with your triad. Just fun to play with because I'm not playing, it's not heavy sound, it's just a nice light sound. So A, D, E, whereas if I'm playing with triads, A, and that's just one of my 3 triads on those particular strings. So I'd have to think about what the next triad is. Here's my next A. Slightly different, it's coming out of what I would call the E chord. So I'm playing the same strings again, but it's this shape. There's an E, there's an F, There's an F sharp, G, and there's my A again. And then the very last shape for an A is up here. So these are the 3 triads on those middle strings. This shape, and this shape. And you'll find those in your cheat sheets for that string grouping, which is D, G, and B. And these shapes are inversions, but I wouldn't necessarily think about them that way because you're not really playing the bass on them, even though you want to know where the root note is. Why are triads beginner friendly? And why should you use them? So triads have a reputation for being a kind of advanced technique, and that's probably because your fingers are away from the nut. So most people learn how to play here, but you're only playing 3 notes. So that's the number one reason to think about triads, is you only have to hold down 3 strings. And so it's a lot easier in your fingers and easier to kind of to play around. And also this, I'm only playing the middle 3 strings, but it's shorthand for this. So you saw I've got to come around and bar the whole thing. So there's my A. So I can do more with stuff, I can get the bass in it, but it's just so easy to play this with my 3 fingers. There's the same A. It's the same fingers, but I'm only playing it with 3 fingers. So you only have 3 notes to play. It's easier to play. They help me move up the neck. So there's my A, there's my D, there's my E. So I didn't really need to even think about it. I'm just moving up the neck, and because I don't have to bar, I don't have to kind of reach around, it's just kind of easy to play. Whoa, it's just easier to play. Potentially faster chord changes. I'm not the greatest, but that's a very easy thing to do, kind of just to go from your 5 to the 4. They're also really good for learning the fretboard, because you have to start kind of thinking about what are the notes in the E string, what are the notes in the A string, how do I identify what this chord is. One of my favorite exercises is to put a bass note on there. So if I'm playing in D, then right above these 3 strings, right here, is the D. So I can add the root note, which is the D. So you can start to make it a little bit more musical and start to have more fun with kind of messing around with the triad. Very little finger movements. Another kind of beauty about triads, if you start finding the triad which involves the least movement. So from this A, I'm going to this D, very little. And you can imagine that's licks to start coming out of these little triad shapes. Also, a fun thing to do is try and figure out little triad riffs. So I'm going to go back to this A shape, play a D here. So there's my D, and the other triad, or another triad on these 3 string groups, is this shape. That is the G. Here's the A. There's very little movement for that 1, 4, 5, but I could make a little riff from it by hammering on. That's quite difficult to do in full chords, but not too difficult to do in triads, because all you're doing is concentrating on 3 strings. I tend to finger pick, but it's easy to just pick all 3 strings at the same time, or finger pick. So away you can go with triads. If you want to learn other guitar tricks and tips and general music theory for absolutely free, go to play.noisyclan.com and we'll help you play more. And subscribe for more videos like this.